Hello, welcome to another video from me, Mr. Morrison. So today I have a classic game called Snake. This was popular when I was young. On some of the first mobile phones had this game. Things like the Nokia had Snake, and the aim of the game is to make the snake eat apples, and each time it eats the apple it gets longer, and you want to try and get the snake as long as you can without touching its tail or touching the edge. So you can see I'm doing quite well, and it's got the length in the corner. Oh, I've missed that apple, so I need to go back around and get it. And then I'm going to see if I go into myself. Oh, game over because I have gone into myself. So let's get creating. So open up a new Scratch project. And the first thing I'd like you to do is choose a backdrop. The one I've used is called Neon Tunnel. So I'm going to use that. And I'm going to go into backdrops here. And I'm going to delete the blank one. And then I'm going to duplicate this and put in a game over. So I've got my game over screen ready to go straight away. I could make it red and make it pixel. In like that. So make the text bigger. And call this game over. So that's me got my background and my game over screen in. Then I'm going to go into the code and I'm going to choose a sprite. In fact, I'm not going to choose a sprite, I'm going to paint a sprite. So I need to paint a sprite, and I'm going to choose green. Make your snake could be a different color, just make sure it stands out. And then I'm going to use this circle tool. I'm going to draw a circle here. In fact, I'm going to draw it with an outline, so I'm going to make sure that I've got a black outline. Let's make this black. Okay, and then I'll draw that circle again. And I'm going to try and make this 25. Now you can see there's some numbers in the top corner, so I'm going to make this a little smaller and adjust it to see if I can get it as close to being equal as possible. So 29, 28. I'm going to zoom in and make sure I click on here, zoom in. There we are, 25 by 25, and put him in the center. Because you want lots of space to be able to make this. So it's important that you have the 25 by 25. And this is going to be the body, so we can call it the body. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to draw a face on this. So this is going to be the face, and I'll just use the paintbrush to draw a face with some black. So I could have two eyes. I could use a smaller paintbrush to do a mouth, and I could add in, if I wanted, a red little tongue in here like a snake often has. There you go. So that's my body and my face. So I can delete the first sprite that opens up, so it'll say yes, I want to delete this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to code this. So I'm going to go to green flag when green flag is clicked. I'm wanting to switch the backdrop to the neon tunnel, so the one that's not game over. Then I'll have a go to, and let's make the position 0, 0. So it's always going to start at 0, 0. And then I'm going to make it point in direction 90. I'm going to also make sure that it's on the front layer, and we have our costume, switch costume to the face to begin with, or the head. So now that I've got the face, I am going to set some variables. So I'm going to have one variable that is called size, and that's the size that my snake is. So set size to 25, because that's the size we made it in the costumes. So that's why it was important to know what we made it there. And then I'm going to make another variable called delay. So we're just going to put in a little bit of a delay, and this will slow down our snake because it'll go very fast if you don't have a delay. And this is the one to adjust if you feel it's going too fast. And then finally, one more called length. And I'm going to set length to, and we can start with 1. Now, you can take away the delay and the size in here so that it starts with the length as the only thing appearing on the screen. I'm then going to go into events and go for forever, and we're going to control the clones. So I'm going to have, essentially this is our head, and then our round body is going to keep appearing behind each time. So we're going to go for create a clone of myself, which is in, there we are, create a clone of myself in control. And then I'm going to go for move our variable delay. So this is the length of time we're going to, sorry, not delay, size, move the size. So this means we move the size of the body before you do anything. Then we're going to have an if statement and touching. So we're going to do an operator of what it's touching. So this is when we lose the game, it can either be touching the edge, so touching edge, or touching the color, which we're going to select as this green. So if it touches itself, then we're out. I'm going to play a little pop when it's out and switch the backdrop in Luke's, switch backdrop to game over. Finally, I'm going to stop all in here, and I'm going to add a wait command above this that waits for the delay before you do anything. So that's, to begin with, what's going to happen each time we move, but we need to tell it how to move. So I am going to go and get some events and when key pressed. So we're going to get the when key pressed and then point in direction. And I'm going to duplicate this 3 times like this, and then we have different things. So we need the up arrow, we need the down arrow, we need the left, right arrow, or let's go for left first, left and right sounds clearer. So up, down, left, right. So up is going to go 0, so it's pointing up there. Down is going to go 180, so oops, 180, so it's pointing down there. And then one side is going to go -90 and the other is going to go 90. So the final thing is, if I play it at the moment, it's just creating lots of heads. So I need to control what it's doing with the clone. So I'm going to have an event when, sorry, in here, I'm going to go when I start a clone, I'm going to go Luke's switch costume to body and then wait. So wait, and this is where our length comes in. So we're going to put in an operator because we need to have a different place it starts or time it waits for each one to be created, because if we don't do that, then it'll all be created behind each other. So we need to know that we're on length 3, so we're going to create it at this point. So we're going to have two things in here. We're going to have on one side the length and the other side the delay. And finally, once we've done that, delete this clone. So that should be our thing here doing what it should be doing. Now, we need to have the things that happen when it touches the apple. So I am going to choose a sprite and find our apple. And our apple, we need to make this about 35, the good size I've found. And I'll show you the code in here. So we're going to have, when green flag is clicked, we're going to hide it and set size to that 35 that I've just told you about. Then we're going to go forever and we're going to have a go to, and we're going to have an operator's pick random. So we're going to have two pick randoms in here, and the numbers are important. So we're going to have a pick random between 220 and 220. So that's anywhere on the screen really. And 160, minus 160, and 160. So that's anywhere on the screen, but the screen's obviously wider than it is long or tall. Then I'm going to have a limit about in case it creates it on top of the apple. We don't want it to create on top of the apple, so I'm going to go into control and I'm going to repeat until not touching. So let's go for not touching. Let's go for not touching color. So let's go into our sensing, touching color, and I will select my color up here. And then we'll duplicate this go to command. And then we've got a few other things. So we're going to have a show, wait until, and then touching sprite. So touching sprite. So let's find it, touching sprite 2. I've not actually renamed this, could rename this as snake. And then we'll put in a sound, chomp. So that means it'll make a sound when it eats it. And finally, we'll have a control and change the length. So change length by 1, and then finally hide. So it's this one little command here, change length by 1, that's going to make us now have our thing increasing. So you can see that here, and it keeps working, and that's it. That is your game. So, hope you enjoy creating it, and I'll see you in another video very soon.